Welcome back to a walk through the tarot. The Fool has arrived at card 20, Judgment, and the scene is a shock. Open coffins float on water while the dead rise up to the trumpet call of an angel. This is the archetype for evaluation and accountability. It represents the process of looking at past actions and being judged on their value. In the previous video, the Fool returned to the world of conscious awareness and encountered the sun. It was a validating experience, and he isn't sure what is left to learn, but he takes a deep breath, makes himself comfortable, and waits to see what will be revealed. We're going to look at the background to this card, examine its symbols, and see what messages it has for the Fool as he comes close to the end of his walk through the tarot. Early tarot decks called this card angel or trumpets, while even in the 15th century the images showed the dead rising up, an event known within Christianity as Judgment Day. The Visconti Sforza deck shows two people who look like wingless angels alongside a third figure thought to be God, and they're watching people emerge from what looks like a shared tomb. Another Visconti deck, the Cariel or Madroni tarot, shows a similar scene. Two angels with differently coloured wings look down on a group rising up from elaborate pink stone graves. At the top of the card, a Latin text says, "Rise to judgment." In the Charles VI tarot, 7 people rise up from the dead. Some appear to be celebrating, but others seem less sure about what's happening, as 2 winged angels blow on elaborate trumpets. While the Budapest, Rothschild and Rosenwald decks from the late 15th century all have one single angel. As the tarot travelled to France in the 17th century, the card's image followed similar themes. The Marseillaise-style designs reinforced Christian symbolism and changed the name to Judgment. In the 18th century, French occultist Antoine Court de Gebelin stripped away the Christian influence, replacing it with emphasis on ancient Egyptian wisdom. This was before hieroglyphs were first interpreted in the 1820s. De Gebelin would have been unaware that ancient Egyptians believed their jackal-headed god Anubis weighed the heart of the dead against the feather of Mat in order to decide where they would spend eternity, a similar idea to the Christian angel calling for the dead to face their own judgments. Occultist Eliphas Levi aligned the tarot to the Jewish mystical system of Kabbalah. It was Levi who changed the Christian interpretation not to ancient Egypt as de Gebelin had claimed, but to a more esoteric regeneration, an awakening of what he called the spirit of primal fire. The card now acted as a bridge between spirit and matter and enabled the coming together of body and soul. Swiss occultist Oswald Wirth named the dead as a mother, father and son. In his Tarot of the Magicians, he also named the angel as Raphael, saying he bore the mark of the sun on his forehead. The Waite Coleman Smith Judgment card was designed in the early 20th century. Waite was a member of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, as was Pamela Coleman Smith, and this was a secret society with temples rather than churches and a pantheon of gods and goddesses rather than a holy trinity. But later in his life, Waite turned to Christian mysticism, and this interest was reflected in his tarot designs. Waite repeated the imagery of resurrection while following the ideas put forward by the French occultists. He called judgment a personal and spiritual awakening. A flag was attached to the trumpet. Those rising from their coffins had open arms, and Waite placed the coffins on open water. The images used for this card have changed little across the centuries, so let's take a closer look at the symbolism on the Waite Coleman Smith version of the card. The Fool has met other angels on his journey in both the Lovers and the Temperance cards, and here is a third. Every one is different. Together they represent the archangels Michael, Raphael and Gabriel, but there are different ideas about which one is associated with each card. Angels are intermediaries between God and humans. They symbolise divine intervention, higher levels of consciousness, and the joining together of material and non-material realms. They are guides and healers with the power to lead individuals towards the best conscious choices in order to achieve balance. The white flag with a red cross is a sacred symbol of resurrection, with emphasis on divine redemption and the union of opposites. The cross has been linked to the 4 elements in the minor arcana cards, and in tarot it's thought to represent a crossroads where judgment involves deciding which path to follow. Waite's trumpet shows either 7 blasts or 7 different tones, like a heptatonic scale which has 7 notes to each octave. In the biblical book of Revelation there were 7 angels, each with a trumpet associated with different scenes of destruction. The final 3 were known as the trumpets of woe, and they could release armies of destruction until the 7th and final call announced the kingdom of God and judgment of the dead. In the Wake card, men, women and children rise up from their coffins with arms outstretched. They symbolise transcendence and experience received with joy. The coffins appear to be floating on water, and throughout the tarot, water has been a symbol of the unconscious self, which now is being released. In the distance, a range of snow-capped mountains are a symbol for the harsh truths of reality as well as achievement, and in judgment, they're a sign the spiritual journey is reaching its end. So, let's take a look at the messages this card has for our Fool. Judgment represents individual transformation, a process similar to the Fool's tarot experience, where uncovering his roots has required an in-depth exploration of the self. The Fool has taken this journey and reached a point where he's achieved a higher level of understanding and consciousness. Now judgment is the call for him to decide the best way to move forward when his journey ends. The walk through the tarot has taught him a new language. He's learned to look at symbols, to consider multiple layers of meaning, and for the first time he wonders if every religious path represents different answers to the same questions. The idea shocks him with its simplicity, and he knows it wouldn't have occurred to him before the journey began. Learning the language of symbols has required the development of intuition and an exploration of the roots of his emotional responses. Now it's time to assimilate the lessons he's learned and decide the directions his future life will go. When he returns, it will be as a different person. The Fool now realises time is one infinite moment. Past, present and future are all the same. Consciousness is timeless, and he is solely responsible for making appropriate choices in the time that he has left on earth. The cards have changed his perspective. There's no escape from the self, and from now on, life events and people will be seen with new levels of inner awareness. He has become the still point in a turning world. Our Fool has learned to accept and love who he is in any given moment, and to see every day as new opportunities to make consciously informed decisions and judgments. After the experience of wholeness and integration, he's being called to carry this new knowledge and practice forward. Whatever path he chooses to follow, he is solely responsible for his attitudes and his beliefs. The veils have been permanently removed, and while he might slip into bad habits, he now knows how to halt any potentially negative progression. The Fool has become balanced, physically, mentally and spiritually. And whether it be acknowledgement of a God or other higher power, or simply his ability to understand himself, the creative energy of life has touched him. He has the sense of being renewed, regenerated, reborn, and nothing will ever feel the same. The final card the Fool will meet is 21, the World. It marks the point where he's ready to return to where he came from when his journey first began. So, join us for this final step on a walk through the tarot.